Um,
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Arevalo, and I'm the Director of Community Health and Wellness at Montefiore Nyack. Today, we're going to be talking about this program called Healthy Relationships, which I love because I have been a witness of what this program can really do. It's a program from the Montefiore Medical Center, and I'm very honored to have Tracy McNeagle here with us because she was the one who started this whole wonderful program that has helped. Well, I guess you'll tell us later, but I know you have helped a lot of people and especially a lot of families. And what I find most amazing about this Healthy Relationships program is that, believe it or not, and I don't know if you know this, Tracy, but they focus on couples relationships to strengthen families. However, having witnessed how they work with the couples, I use those tactics myself with anything on with everybody. It could be not only at home, but you can use these tactics because they are all communication tactics with your children, with your neighbors, with your coworkers and friends, with anyone. Just help resolve conflict or avoid conflict. And why not? Who doesn't want to live a more peaceful life? Winning the battle also. So, Tracy, thank you so much for being here. I'm just really thrilled that you spared some time to share this with us. And you know that I'm very excited to bring this to Rockland. You are in the Bronx right now, but I can't wait to have you here in Rockland helping our families here too.
Thank you so much. And yes, we are so excited about bringing supporting healthy relationships to Nyack, to Rockland. So thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. Again, my name is Tracy Minigo. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm the director of a few different family strengthening programs out of Montefiore, and one of them is supporting healthy relationships. So I'm so excited to first introduce you to some of the curriculum, talk to you a little bit about what masters of healthy relationships are able to do, and what disasters, on the other hand, are oftentimes the patterns that they get stuck in. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'll tell you a little bit more about the program itself, and how you can enroll if you're interested in learning a little bit more. So we'll start by watching a fun video to hopefully get your wheels turning. Um, these features are awkward puppets here. You can find this on YouTube as well. So let's watch this, and then I'd like to hear your thoughts.
¿Ha tenido un
Oh, we have
accidente?
an advertisement
Comuníquese
first.
con las oficinas legales de Brandon J. Broad.
He's never home anymore.
Benita,
He doesn't even tell me where he is.
that's not true.
Sometimes he's playing soccer. Sometimes he
That's
might not
not
be
true.
playing soccer, be playing with another
my
girl.
God.
You know what I mean?
That's not
I
true.
call him all the time.
I'm
He
not-
never
I-
answers. It's some other girl that answers.
Benita, can I talk?
Sí, claro. Sí, sí.
Can I talk, please? Jesus Christ. I thought this was marriage counseling, not crazy Latina woman who can't really cook counseling.
Sí, haha, okay.
Okay, anyway, she looks through my shots and my Instagram and she reads my text messages while I'm sleeping.
That's because he's always texting other girls.
Benita, I text them because I want to make sure my phone is still working.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What about that text you sent Patricia last night?
What text?
And how come you never liked my pictures?
I don't know, Benita. Maybe my phone is just a little broken. You know, it's an iPhone. Maybe I have to go to the Apple store and...
I always know when he's lying to me, you know.
Don't be crazy. I never lie.
Every time you lie, you do this little thing with your head.
What thing on my head?
Watch this. Diego, do you like my empanadas?
Yes, I like them very much.
Ha! See? I told you.
What do you mean? I was stretching.
Do you like my mother?
Yes, Benita, of course I like your mother.
Desgraciado, that's mi madre!
Oh my God.
Diego, I can't believe you!
Benita, please, she's like 97 years old and her farts smell like beef burritos.
Okay, one more question. Do you love me?
Yes, Benita, I love you.
Well, at least that was honest. The least you can do is love me after all the stupid things that you do. I mean, I have to wait for you. You never...
So there's a little a fun little
I can't stop
clip.
buying new
Sorry
shades of
about
this
that.
product.
to get you all thinking about some of the patterns that we get stuck in our relationships. Any thoughts from anyone on and Sandra, am I able to see folks' comments in the chat?
Yes, you will be
Okay.
able to see them, and I can also help you read them.
Yeah. So, what did you all notice? Feel free to throw in the chat about how this couple was communicating with each other. What stands out for you? What worked? What didn't work? Throw it in the chat.
One-way communications,
Mm-hmm.
respecting boundaries,
Not,
talking over each other and disrespectful comments, no
mm-hmm.
active listening.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. So a lot of disrespect, right? Want more sort of focusing on what my own perspective and not wanting to hear my partner's perspective, not active listening. What's that? What is active listening? Who wants to throw it in here? Talking over each other, active listening, right? This is when we are listening with empathy, right? So you're already starting to notice some of the ways in which now do the concerns that each of them have, are you noticing that they have some legitimate concerns that they want to communicate to each other?
I will say yes, but there was also another comment here
Yep.
about active listening, reflecting, and acknowledging.
Yes. Okay. So we are seeing that each partner does have a legitimate concern or issue. What are they? What are those concerns? What are those issues? What are the concerns that they want to be able to bring to their partner that they might be having? Lack of trust?
Lack of trust.
Absolutely.
Say
Mm-hmm.
that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of respect.
Lack of respect. These are big ones, really, really big ones. And do you think fear of infidelity, lack of privacy, these are big, big issues. Do you think that either of them are being heard in their concerns? Truly heard? No, no, absolutely not. Right. And that's part of what we're going to get into is oftentimes we do have very important issues that we want to bring to our partner, and we are not sure how the best way to bring them up. Or some of the issues that we do want to bring up come with so much emotion and so much fear and so much anxiety that we're not sure how to initiate those conversations and make sure to do so in a way that our partner will hear us, and that you'll be able to share both of your perspectives and then eventually come to a compromise or a solution together. So one of the things that we want to start out with when we're trying to think about how to effectively communicate, and again, this, as Sandra mentioned, it's not just with our partners, but it could also mean with our children, could also mean with coworkers, right? Our own parents, relatives, whatever the case may be. So we do want to be able to identify what are the negative communication patterns that we get stuck in. And I wonder if if you were to name, and there's actually um, a psychologist named John Gottman came up with what he calls the four horsemen of the apocalypse. We at Supporting Healthy Relationships, we call them the four train wrecks. It's just a little bit easier to to swallow. Four negative behaviors that couples get stuck in that could lead to eventually to relationship destruction. Um, Anyone want to take a guess on what those four behaviors might be? And you saw many of them in the video. Four negative behaviors that couples might get stuck in um, when they interact with each other that could cause, if they are done often, right, arguing. And what might you see in those arguments?
Lying.
Lying. That's a good guess. Avoiding. Disrespect. Yes.
Argue.
Arguing.
Poor communication. Not
Mm-hmm.
listening. avoidance, disrespect, bringing up prior issues, not listening.
Yes. So I think that you are hitting on many of them already. Disrespect is actually one of the four train wrecks. Not listening or avoiding, which hits on stonewalling, which is another one of the train wrecks. And right, poor communication. Some of that comes in the form of criticism or defensiveness. So let's actually take a closer look at these four train wrecks. Just give me 1 second. I can get to the right slide here. Um, so we will get to these four train wrecks here. So the first one is criticism. A criticism is a complaint that attacks your partner's personality. Just a broad complaint that attacks your partner's personality. This is a really good way to know that you are criticizing your partner is if the sentence that you are using starts with you always or you never. How many of us in this room can reflect on, say, the past week, the past month? How often have you spoken to your partner, your child, your parent, your relative, and started a sentence with you always? You always show up late. You never put your dishes away when you're supposed to. What are you noticing? Does anyone want to fess up, me included, to having used a criticism um, as a way to probably make a pretty legitimate complaint about an issue? I can't see the chat currently.
No one has raised their hand, but I'm sure that someone is saying, yes, it doesn't work. My son still doesn't do what I ask him. Tracy, I think we lost your video. You're back.
Sorry about that. So who has used a criticism? Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all, one way or another, have always, especially if we are angry, right? If we don't take time to calm down, I think those come out very easily.
Yes. They come out very, very easily. And usually it feels quite justified because even though your partner probably hasn't always done the thing, or really even though your partner probably hasn't necessarily never done the thing, it probably feels to you as though that is true, right? It happens enough times that it feels like saying always or never, right, is is a accurate way of describing the issue. And so we have folks here who are saying, yes, it's an impulsive reaction. I see it as a comment and not a criticism, right? Fair enough. When you're not in control of your feelings, sometimes things come out. Right. And so it does seem like it's a fair comment to say. Now, the issue is that oftentimes you are bringing up this issue because you want your partner to hear you out. And the problem is that if you approach your partner in this way of attacking them globally, as justified as it might feel, then it may cause them to not want to respond to you. And a very common way of responding instead is with defensiveness. And hopefully I'm on that slide. Are you seeing my slides okay?
Yes, you can make them bigger if you want to put them in
The full
slideshow.
screen? Yeah. So the You seeing it now, or is it still in the smaller version?
Now we do.
So yes, so defensiveness, where this is when we are denying responsibility or keeping score, right? You think that I never, you're complaining that I always show up to pick up the kids late, but you never do the laundry when you say that you're going to do the laundry. Right. So this is the this kind of back and forth, right? Keeping score. And then you start to get stuck in this argument. How many of you all have been in these kinds of moments with your loved ones where you're trying to approach them with an issue, then you do it in a way that then kind of causes this defensiveness, and then you're feeling like you're stuck kind of in this circle and you're spinning. And meanwhile, whatever the issue is, it's not getting resolved. The two of you are just attacking, defending, attacking, defending. So then oftentimes the argument, yeah, you usually shut down, which is a very right, which is also another one of the four train wrecks, stonewalling. Right? There's sort of this evolution that might happen when you're in conflict with your loved one where you may spin in this attack defend cycle, and then eventually it starts to get so escalated, you're kind of pointing fingers, jabbing each other, and then it leads to what John Gottman calls contempt, or I think what most people refer to more commonly as disrespect. These are put downs that imply that you're superior. They come in the form of insults. They can be even more subtle, like rolling your eyes or sneering. Another common way of showing disrespect is using sarcasm. Sometimes we don't realize that when we're being sarcastic with our partner, that it is sort of a way of subtly sending the message that you think that you're superior to them. And again, a lot of this is driven by how we're feeling emotionally in the moment, right? There's hurt that's going on at that point. There's some kind of concern or hurt, and then perhaps you've already been attacking and defending, and you are starting to feel hurt, and then that hurt kind of comes out in this angry way, and then it shows in these expressions of disrespect. Name calling, this is when you start to yell. This is when you start to, God forbid, if it gets to this point, right, start to get aggressive. And another possible reaction is to stonewall. This is where we withdraw, we shut down, we ignore, we're not listening to each other, walking away. A very common way of stonewalling is using this little guy that we all have handy dandy. Oftentimes we don't realize that we're stonewalling when we pick up this phone. It actually becomes, we've sort of, we do it all the time without intending to, that we are shutting people around us out.
Like a
So
shield.
like a shield. It is. It's sort of, it does. And actually, folks who do stonewall, they truly believe that they are protecting themselves, certainly from their partner's wrath. It might feel like this wrath at the time, or they may feel like they're protecting the relationship and their partner from allowing the argument to continue to escalate, right? It's you just sort of see that we're continuing to spin, we're not getting anywhere. Let's just, I just need to kind of walk away, shut it out, because if I keep engaging, then it's only going to get worse. So can you elaborate what you mean? So if a person decides to disengage in a text, okay. So when I'm talking about stonewalling, what I'm talking about is a unilateral decision to shut the other person out. Now, on the one hand, there is something adaptive, right? If things are getting escalated, and both of you are activated, right, that your emotions are sort of taking over, you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode. That's oftentimes what is happening when we're in conflict with our partner. There is something adaptive about stepping away from the argument so both of you can calm down. And that's actually a separate skill of, you know what, we need to take a break. Let's take a break, walk away from this. But it comes with an agreed upon promise to revisit the conversation later. The problem with stonewalling is that it is a unilateral decision by one partner to stop the conversation, and it leaves the other person hanging, not knowing if the dialogue is going to continue. Right. And that's sort of where we want to be mindful that yes, you probably do need to take a break. But it does need to be a situation where both of you have an agreement that you're going to revisit the conversation later. Um, other thoughts or questions? That was a great question.
Tracy, I think that body language has a lot to do
Yeah.
with this as well.
Mm-hmm.
The way how you leave a conversation. If you just smile, for example, and you say, I need some time, will be much better than just being like, "Ah," and all rude, hit your
Yes.
back and walk away. Like
Absolutely.
sometimes I feel that body language can be worse than words.
Yes, I think that's a great point. Yes, posture and facial expression are very important. The
Mhm.
other piece too here, which is important, is that um, part of what not only do you want to avoid these four train wrecks, but you do also want to increase positivity in general in your relationship. And uh, you can still have positive interactions with each other when the two of you are in conflict. And that might be hard to imagine. That how if we are in a fight, but I think this is an example, right? This is an example of how to be positive towards each other when you're in a fight. Let's imagine. Well, first of all, let me ask you a question. I'm going to skip forward a few slides really quick, or we'll get to. So, how many on this note, if I were to tell you that you need a certain number of positive interactions to counteract the impact of one negative interaction, how many positive interactions do you think you need to have with your partner to even it out? Throw them in the chat. What are your
30,
guesses?
too
30? Too many. 100.
100. I would say it depends on what
You think
happened.
it depends? Yeah.
Yeah, for some things will be like maybe 10, but some others will be a million.
Yeah. Might
I'm
depend.
gonna
Yes.
say it
Yes.
silly.
We
And
have, okay,
for me,
one good one.
15, I say two.
So, and by the way, the answer I'm going to give you is actually based on research, right? So this is actually based on, so John Gottman is a psychologist and his team in Seattle, they have what they call a love lab where they studied couples for many years and their interactions and then, you know, um, determine whether or not they stayed together and were happy 10, 15 years later. And in his love lab, he did, and by the way, if you're interested, if you have an extra, oh, I don't know, 5, 10 grand in your pocket, you can become subjects in the love lab and they can do an assessment of your relationship. And you can come out with a very detailed report.
And
Um,
Tracy, here's an interesting comment. It says two, one to handle the initial issue and the other to show improvement.
Oh, I love that. That's actually a great, I love that. I love that, right? To really just think, right, not just counterbalance, but actually make sure that there is um uh, uh um an increase, right? And actually the way that you may the way that we think about this is deposits in an emotional bank account into the emotional bank account of your relationship, right? So how can we make sure that you have either zero balance, or a positive balance so that when you get into a conflict or when there's a negative interaction, that when you are withdrawing from that emotional bank account, when you're in conflict, that you aren't in the red, right? That's what we're trying to prevent. So, um, John Gottman and his colleagues studied all these couples and did find that there was an ideal ratio based on what the couples were doing, the ratio that the couples had that were together 10, 15, 20 years later. So, many of you are actually quite close because what he found was that couples who were most likely to stay together, who were in happy relationships, on a daily basis, we're engaging in 20 positive interactions for every one negative interaction. But when they were in conflict, they were engaging in 5 positive interactions for every negative interaction. So I'm giving you a mathematical formula for relationship happiness. There actually is one that you need to have a 5-to-1 ratio, positive to negative, when you're in conflict, or 20-to-1 on a daily basis. So let's talk about that a little bit. So back to our earlier conversation, what might be an example of so if you're in the middle of conflict with your partner, maybe you've started to throw some of those train wrecks, criticizing, defending, showing some disrespect, maybe there's stonewalling that you're doing. What might be a way, what might be some positive deposits that you can make in your relationship while you're in the midst of that conflict? So one of our friends, and Sandra here gave some examples, right? That even just, you know, uh, in your body language, still showing some kind of warmth, even if you're letting them know. Yeah, showing appreciation for some act. Absolutely. If you're in a disagreement, what are some of the things, even if you're fighting, what are some of the things that you might say or do in the midst of an argument
You
that
look
would,
handsome.
yeah, making some kind of compliment, right? That right. Sometimes I have couples who will still sort of show physical affection, hold hands, put their hand on their partner's leg or shoulder, even if they are arguing, right? Or if they're disagreeing, still saying, I understand where you're coming from. That does make sense. And here's what I think. Right. So there is some kind of affirmation, there is some kind of appreciation, eye contact, right? Listening, paraphrasing back. I think we need to stop for a few minutes and breathe. Yeah. So just right, recognizing that things are starting to go downhill, um, and and suggesting that you take sort of a little bit of a breather. And this is what you're referring to is a repair attempt. Like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. I realize that landed in the wrong way. Let me start over. Or let me try that again. That sounded hurtful and I didn't mean that. Let me start over. Or hold on, I think we're starting to get too escalated. Let's just take a minute and breathe. Other ideas on positivity during a conflict? Paraphrasing back what you're hearing, validating. I hear that you're saying that you want to have pizza for dinner, but not pepperoni. I get it. That makes sense. Right? Just repeating it back. Hopefully, we're not having, escalated arguments about pizza, but you never know.
Saying sorry. It says here, saying sorry.
Apologizing. That is right. That is absolutely saying sorry. That can go a long way.
Showing appreciation for when they do things if the problem is them not doing it.
That's a great point. And I think that what you're getting at too is beyond, right, this argument, but once you've sort of gone past it and you've brought up your concern and you're back to your daily routine, then a way to continue to make deposits is if you're seeing them do the thing that you want, then say, oh, I'm so, that felt really good when you did, like it was so nice to come home and see that the dishes were all clean, and then we can sort of not have to worry about that and sit and watch our favorite show on Netflix. Right. So really those anytime that you can express appreciation, I am willing to bet that there is no one in this room who does not like to be appreciated. Probably most people like to feel appreciated. And most of the time you can't go wrong with appreciating your partner even more. So I think being able to do that on a daily basis. Let's talk about this 20-to-1 ratio on a daily basis. Can you imagine having 20 positive interactions with your partner at least on a daily basis. What might those interactions look like? What are some examples of those interactions? And I'm going to give you some too, but I'm curious if anything is coming up. Think about today. Wake up with a hug or a kiss, such a small thing. Conversation during breakfast, right? You all are on the right track. That oftentimes we don't realize how much impact it can have when we are just taking a little bit of time in our day to show positivity towards our partner. Right, expressing appreciation for making breakfast, calling to see how their day is going, waking up with a hug or a kiss, greeting them after work with all of these count. Each one of these is a deposit. Counts as one of the 20. Wow, you look amazing today. Maybe you're both working from home. Sandra and I were talking about this, and you glance at each other over your computer screens and you wink, whatever. All of these little things, those emojis, series of emojis that you send each other throughout the day, these all count towards positivity. Thank you for making the kids lunch. Right, there's so many possibilities of ways that you can just let your partner know that you're thinking of them, that you care about them, that you see them. And then also responding positively to when your partner reaches for you in that way. Another more subtle way of increasing positivity, making deposits in your relationship is through making bids. Um, Bids are a way to make connection. Um, it's a way that you can express what you need in the moment. Um, in happy relationships, both partners make and receive bids well. Sometimes bids are clear, sometimes they're subtle. A bid might be, hey, our neighbor got a new car. That's a bid. Our neighbor got a new car. Say you're sitting on the couch scrolling through your phone and your partner looks out the window and says, "Hey, our neighbor got a new car." There are many different ways you could respond to that bid. It is a bid, it is a way of initiating conversation to connect. It is totally innocuous. There's no, right, it's just making this comment. Can you throw it in the chat? What are some ways that you might respond to this bid? Hey, our neighbor's got a new car. What might be a way to positively respond? This attempt to connect, to engage in conversation. You're scrolling through your phone. Good eye. Good eye. That's nice. Do you think we need a new car?
Mhm. I don't know. I'll be like, so.
Yeah. So no, that's a good right. And that's the thing, right? What do you care if our neighbor got a new car? What? Is there something wrong with ours? Right?
Mhm.
So, and this is where sometimes, right, experiences in past conversations, or depending you're on your mood that day, or depending on any other, there might be a lot of context that can help to curate how you decide to respond, right? But in this case, what I want you to think about is that if you, in the service of increasing positivity in a relationship, when your partner tries to reach towards you with a bid, to give them the benefit of the doubt and turn towards the bid, right? So it might be tempting. There's an interpretation in there, right, Sandra? There is an interpretation in there if you respond with so, because there's like a feeling that you're having. There,
I'd just be curious where the comment is coming from.
right. So yes, that could be, right? And I will tell you that oftentimes if you are not realizing that this is just a bid to connect, then you may respond in that way, like so, right? How might your partner receive it? If you say, "What? Do you think we need a new car? What so?" Do you think they'd respond positively?
not. Probably they're gonna
Probably
say,
not.
oh, I cannot even talk to you.
Yeah. Right. And so now along the other lines, we have some other folks saying, yeah, what kind is it? Oh, what's the color? Right? Good eye, right? All this is like, oh, really? What kind of car is it? Right? Like it's sort of engaging further in the conversation to show, that you're interested. I mean, this is a hard one. There was a bid that my husband was doing all the time with me that I didn't realize was a bid after we were like 2 years together. Because it was a similar thing. He was like, "Oh, driving through his hometown, he points out a factory that makes airplane engine parts, and he says, "Oh, you know what they make in there? Oh, what do they make? Oh, airplane engine parts." The first time it happened, I thought, cool, whatever. And then we drive through his hometown the next holiday, he points it out again. "Hey, do you know what they make in there?" I'm like, "Yeah, you told me last time." It was airplane engine parts. Right, not realizing that it's really not about the sharing of information that I've already heard, right? I'm thinking like, what does he think I'm not listening well? Like, why is he telling me the thing again? Not realizing that this is his way of connecting. He knows that I know, but every time we pass it, he just wants to mention, there's a nostalgia there. He grew up by this big factory that makes airplane engine parts. So he feels proud, right? There's something in that, right? Meanwhile, I'm allowing my own feelings about that. Like, oh, does he think that I'm a at the time, bad girlfriend, like that I'm not listening to him and he wants to make sure that I'm listening, right? All of these things. So bids, right? Really trying to figure out, are there ways in which you or your partner are trying to make bids towards each other that really it means a lot when you turn towards them instead of away from them or against them? Some others examples: a bid for conversation. I'm worried about your brother. A bid for relief. I'm exhausted. Can you take care of the baby while I take a nap? A bid for humor. I heard a new joke. A bid for sex. You are really turning me on right now. Right? There's so many different ways that you can reach towards your partner, and it really is meaningful the way that you respond. Right? You want to turn towards mindful responses that are intended to make the sender feel heard, to feel valued and important. Turning away is when you just keep scrolling on your phone. This is when you don't even respond. Turning against, responding to the bid in a negative way intentionally. What do you care? Our car's just fine. Right? Those kinds of ways. I wonder if, as you're listening to this, if you're reflecting on the past few days and are wondering if there were some bids that you might have missed from your partner or from your child. Bids from kids are a little bit easier, right? Our kids, their bids are pretty obvious. They throw their tantrums, they whine, they tug on our pant leg, right? They do, right? They, when they're even smaller, when they're infants, like there's different kinds of cries. Let us know what they need. I think part of the way you want to think about it is that oftentimes our partners have bids that we're not realizing our bids. Takes a little bit more to read into. So the more that you're able to notice those, respond well to them, the more deposits you're making into your bank account. And then the less impactful those withdrawals or those negative interactions are going to feel. So I also want to give you another concrete skill here, because we talked about the 4 train wrecks, and all of them have antidotes. The antidote to stonewalling, as I'm starting here at the bottom, is what I talked about, which is, instead of making the unilateral decision to just completely shut out your partner, the antidote to stonewalling is to take a break, to self-soothe. And so that is the idea that both of you agree that you will take a break, but then you do come back and have the conversation again. And the person who requested the break is in charge of reinitiating the conversation. Right? So that's a really big piece. And oftentimes when we are activated, it takes our body at least 30 minutes to calm down. So the idea behind this is, if you are in the middle of a conflict and you need to take a break, make sure that you are giving both of you at least a half an hour to calm down, and make sure that you are using that half an hour to really distract yourself. You are not calling mom, dad, best friend to complain about the fight. You are not making a list of all of your counter arguments. Instead, you are going and doing something that will actually relax you. Because it is as if your partner turned into a werewolf during that argument, and you want to make sure that when you go back to your partner that you are no longer seeing them as a werewolf. Then the antidote to contempt or disrespect is creating an atmosphere of appreciation. The antidote to defensiveness is accepting some responsibility. Um, and the antidote to criticism is the softened startup. So instead of saying you always or you never, using a harsh startup, which probably will cause defensiveness and not being heard, you want to initiate the conversation using a softened startup, which increases the chances of being heard. So what is the formula for a softened startup? Some of this might look familiar to you. It's very similar to what folks oftentimes refer to as I statements. It's kind of a nice formula, starting out with what the feeling is and what you are reacting to, making sure that you describe something that's very specific and not critical. So I feel irritated when I come home and I see a pile of dishes in the sink. So that's even better, not to say when you do this. I could say when you leave a pile of dishes in the sink, but the point is that whatever you are describing is in neutral terms. It's an act, it's a fact, it's not something that can be disputed, right? Because you do want to prevent the possibility that the other person will get defensive, and you can say, well, so that's the first part. I feel irritated when I come home and there's a big pile of dishes in the sink. Describe what's wrong in neutral terms is the second part. Um, be neutral and objective. So, it's really, it is so hard when I come home after doing a 12-hour shift and I'm hungry and I want to eat. And I just want to make sure that we're able to have a clean kitchen so that we can make a meal and eat together. So, not judgmental, not personal, just very neutral, objective, and then say what you need in a positive way. Make a specific request. What do you think about after, after we do make a quick meal or order something, and then after that we wash the dishes together? I'll wash you dry. Right. So you're making a request. And by the way, that final request that you're making is not, you are not it is not a demand. It is just a jumping off point for negotiation, right? So it is just a way to um, start the conversation that number one increases the chances that you'll be heard and also starts it in a productive route, right? So I'm telling you how I feel, I'm telling you the situation, and I'm making a suggestion on how we can solve the problem. But then from there, you can dialogue about it. What is it? I see a comment here. Yes, like a woman asking a man, "Can we talk?" Oh, yeah. What is that? How does that sound to you? Do we like hearing that? Do we like hearing, "Can we talk?" No.
No problems.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So we do exactly. The goal here is how can you initiate the conversation to increase the chances that you will be heard and that the conversation will be productive. Sometimes using a softened startup might not necessarily initially feel emotionally fulfilling, right? You might feel angry and it might feel annoying to have to use this structure because it means that you have to tamp down your anger a little bit. And I hear this from my couples all the time. Well, but I'm so angry. Why can't I just show show her how angry I am or show him how angry and yes, you have every right to be angry and you can express your anger, but the problem is that what is hard to realize in the moment is that what you want more than showing you're angry is to be heard. And if you show it in that way, then you won't be heard. I message say how you feel, why you feel that way, what you want, and why you want that to happen in a firm and calm way. Beautiful. Yes, that was just another way of saying what the softened startup looks like. Let's practice it. Consider the following scenario. This is actually a real life scenario from one of the couples in our workshops. Your teenage son needs a new pair of sneakers for the new school year. Your partner takes him out shopping and buys him the newest, priciest Nikes. He bought them without consulting with you first. Meanwhile, in looking over your family finances and this month's bills, you have realized you can't afford to pay the electric bill. You are fuming with anger at him. How might you use the softened startup to initiate a conversation with your partner about what happened? Here's your formula. Who wants to take a stab at step one? You got this. Step one, how do you feel?
Yeah, so I will say I feel worried when
Mhm.
you spend money on things that are expensive while we could use the same money to pay the electric bill.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And here's another example. I feel disrespected when you do not talk to me before spending money. Yep, that's also a good example. I feel stressed when big purchases and we are not both deciding on them. Yes. Right. This is all specific. It is not critical. It is neutral. It is objective, right? What you were describing is exactly what happened. There's no grand interpretation. It's exactly what happened, right? So I think all of you covered steps one and two. Is there a little bit more that we could say about step two? Something more neutral about the issue? Maybe something about these electric bills,
Mhm.
right? We also do have these other bills to pay, and right, and we have to figure that out. So what might be saying what you need in a positive way? What might be the specific request? I look like those sneakers, but I wish you would have spoken to me about it first. What might be the request that you're making now for the future? What might be a softened way of saying, giving your request?
Can you say it in the form of a question? Like, don't
hmm
you think that next time we could decide on how to spend the money, especially after we look at all the bills that we need to pay?
Beautiful. Yes. Beautiful. That was a model response, Sandra. You would think that you would have experienced this program somehow in some other way.
You think?
Yes. I need you to let me know because our finances are limited. And I would had spoken to you first before making that decision. I would appreciate you consulting me before buying expensive items. Right. So I think yes, I would appreciate you consulting me. This response, I would have spoken to you first before making that decision. So I think something to be aware of is there may be sort of a little bit of a critical tone in that way of saying it. And again, these are all very nuanced things. But something to be aware of is sometimes you don't realize that we are kind of have a critical undercurrent. I feel overlooked when you make financial decisions without talking to me. I would like for us to take care of the utility bill like before, right? Beautiful. Great. So this is an example of, right, and when we, during the workshops, we go through these skills, we learn them over the course of 8, 10, or 12 weeks, depending on what workshop you join. I'm aware of where we are on time. I want to show you a little video that includes some folks who have experienced the workshops so that you can get a sense of what the workshops are like in case you or anyone you know might want to join. So I'm going to play this video.
We felt very comfortable. And I was like, oh, okay, so we can actually speak and express the way we feel and share ideas and laugh and talk. It was really nice.
It was nice to just have conversations with people who were kind of like-minded.
The Supporting Healthy Relationships program is funded by the Office of Family Assistance to strengthen families by providing relationship education workshops, employment services, and then also family support services. A lot of the couples that we serve in the South Bronx come from pretty impoverished circumstances. It's really great that we can offer them a program focused on strengthening their relationship that is entirely free.
Communication issues is one of the biggest things that we get here. Not feeling as though their partner's listening to them or really understanding their point of view.
We have been delivering our services virtually. We actually serve families all over New York City and even out of state and even out of the country.
I'm learning how to engage with them on camera, through a screen, and still have them have an experience that was just as meaningful as it was for those who were coming into the workshops before the pandemic. I think our take a break ritual is something that our couples really remember and find really effective because it's easy to incorporate into everyday life.
Take a break, go do something else, get it off your mind, and then, and then come back later and regroup.
Cuando tenemos conflicto, aprendimos que uno de los dos tiene que tomar una acción de quedarse callado.
And then we'll discuss afterwards, after we both cool down.
I have couples who maybe start in week one very quiet, kind of isolated and withdrawn, and as the weeks go on, they become more engaged.
Ya los segundos, terceros, cuartas sesiones que habían, se hizo más cómodo, más natural, más sencillo.
They start to share experiences and they engage in a way that feels true to them, which is one of the most, I think, fulfilling experiences for facilitators here.
After the baby was born, I noticed that we were having conflict with time, paying attention to him more because the baby's just so new and exciting, and it's like, oh my gosh.
To welcome a new baby into this world, it can turn a relationship completely upside down.
You're going to have a lot of resources available to you.
A bunch of free stuff too. We got a high chair, which is great. We got some diapers.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
Many of the families that we work with are products of intergenerational trauma. We're actually run by clinically trained psychologists and mental health counselors.
Oftentimes, these past experiences keep them from being able to connect in a way that feels good to them. And sometimes they don't even feel worthy of that love and respect that they so deeply have wanted since they were little.
This is something that we're really mindful of and try to make sure to incorporate a trauma-informed approach when we work with the couples that we see.
They're able to engage with each other in different ways. They treat each other like family, like friends. And we've had couples in the past say, at least when we were in person, that this was like sitting in a living room talking to their friends.
Las personas que nos ayudaron siempre estaban preocupadas por cómo nos sentíamos. Y eso no claro, todo el mundo quiere saber qué es importante para alguien más. Y eso me gustó mucho del programa.
It doesn't feel like they're sitting in a workshop. Instead, it feels like they are in a very warm and supportive environment in which they can feel safe.
Empezamos a conocer todos, ¿no? Pero nos pareció muy agradable. Sí, estuvo muy bien, nos sentimos en confianza. Y por las reglas que es de tener confiabilidad en los demás, era muy seguro poder expresarse.
The ones that bring the most change are our sore spots module, where they're able to identify what their sore spots are, what their past negative experiences have been, and then being able to have these new conversations where they're able to ask their partner what they really need in those moments of disconnection.
Those skills can be used with their kids and also are modeled for their kids. And then when they get older and get into their own relationships, then they will have those skills.
Nos ayuda con nuestros hijos cuando iban a ingresar a la escuela. El programa nos avisó de que podíamos ir a participar a una charla y daban útiles escolares.
Financial coaching starts by having both members of the couple. We'll sit down and we'll ask them like general questions about their finances, how they're managing their money. What are some issues around managing money? Getting them to the point of making a plan and sticking to the plan. Some people it's setting up, a cell phone.
Needing resources, food pantry, health insurance, driver's license, whatever it is.
They need to work on their education, on how to maybe get a certification.
So that they are addressing all of those needs and then therefore can focus on making their family stronger.
SHR places clients in jobs. We have strong relationships with different high demand industries with employers.
It's resolvable. Like, your issue is not the end of the world. If you have that foundation of, like, you love each other, you just need the other tools to work it out, figure it out.
La comunicación.
Oops. Sorry about that. I was aware of the time, but we only had a couple of seconds left on the video. I just, that's a sort of a brief intro to the program. I'm gonna put my contact information in the chat here. If anyone is interested in enrolling, we're actually at the tail end of our grant cycle. And so we're running our last workshops of 2025 are launching this month and next. So now is a good time to enroll because once these workshops launch, you won't see us again until 2026, provided that we are able to secure more additional funding. We have 2 virtual workshop series starting on Thursday, the 24th in the evening, and then we have a lunchtime series starting on Fridays on May 9th. Yes, there is no income eligibility for enrollment. All you have to do is be in a committed relationship, have a child under 18 or be expecting a child, and then be 18 or older yourself. So those are really, and we try to also be flexible with the eligibility. So if you are helping the care of a child and are in a committed relationship yourself, it doesn't have to be a biological child. It can be step, foster. It can be 2 grandparents who are helping in the care of their grandchild. All of the above, you are welcome in our program. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. And then Sandra, also send my slides over in case you want to distribute those as well.
That would be wonderful. And thank you, Tracy. I'm seeing some of the comments here, very informative, very valuable information. And yes, I mean, I have to tell all of our attendees here, we used to do these workshops for families, and that's how I learned, just from seeing you guys doing this. And it's just amazing. It's life-changing, really. So thank you for everything that you do, Tracy. This is amazing. And thank you for opening your doors now to our families here in Rockland and to our attendees, either for yourself, people that your patients. We all know someone who is going through something. And these workshops are truly amazing. So don't forget to reach out. If you don't have Tracy's information, just contact me and I'll be very happy to put you in touch. So thank you, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. There is a question here. Let me see. Tracy's contact information. Yes. So it's in the chat.
Yep. I put it in the chat. tmynego@montefiore.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also just going to put the website in here if you want more information.
And you can see the whole video there in the website too, and learn more about the program. So thank you all. Thank you very much, and especially to you, Tracy. I just love this program. I'm a fan. So thank you for everything that you do.
You're welcome.
I will see you next week. We're going to be talking about falls. The name of the program is We Catch You Before You Fall. It's a new program that is starting also in our community. So without further ado, thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.